We're an earned media agency, which means that we pitch editors and journalists in order to secure those opportunities. But what we do have is an editorial model that helps us achieve that, and we're very confident in the ability to do so. We do underwrite a minimum number of articles that we can deliver for clients on a quarterly basis. So that's the first thing. The second thing, when it comes to reputational issues such as investor relations are probably the most common reputational issue, where maybe investors, they're angry about a particular issue, or there's some motivations and they start leaking board minutes to journalists. That becomes a very high level kind of strategic reputational risk for any startup. And we've dealt with those in the past. Other issues include product failure, especially for companies that are on a growth stage trajectory and they have an outage for 24 hours. That can obviously capture a lot of attention. And it might be the founder's first time managing that crisis. And we give strategic advice around that. The core thing in managing crisis when it comes to your own reputation is to just have a very clear plan on the more drama there is in the crisis, the more eyeballs tend to tune in. So you want to just make everything as boring as possible, but also you want to be doing the right thing on behalf of your customers, your investors, your employees all of the time. And provided you're doing that, it tends to arrest the problem. I would say the first thing that we would always advise clients is to make the most out of your strategic announcements. If you do have a fundraising round, if you are expanding the team, if you have a new established partnership, if you're opening a new office, if you've got a new report that you've put together, all of these help secure volume of coverage because they can be deemed newsworthy and distributed to a wide audience in a lot of cases. There is sometimes the approach where you might go down the exclusive route for a funding round, which is absolutely valid. So who are your investors, the amount, how far along is the company, and approaching the likes of TechCrunch or VentureBeat or so on with an exclusive makes a lot of sense in that case, and you can follow it on with pitch campaigns, so other outlets. In some cases where you cannot secure that exclusive, sometimes it's just better to widen the net and send it to as many relevant publications and journalists as possible. At the very least, you're raising awareness about your trajectory and you're putting yourself on the radar of a lot of tech journalists in that industry. And from then on in, leveraging your strategic announcements and just staying regularly in touch with different ideas to journalists and editors. Maybe a common mistake that can be made in two cases. One is poor use of a tactic we call newsjacking, where you look at trending news stories, for example, and you try and insert your own company brand or CEO into that story with a quote, whatever it might be. There's a lot of effort put in to reacting to a story that isn't actually about you, to make it about yourself can an awful lot of times just be a waste of time and resources. And we see that over and over again, sometimes with CMOs, where they're requesting more of that activity because it ups the amount of mentions, maybe in some cases, that they get, but it doesn't add context and you're rarely communicating messaging. Sometimes can be linked to thought leadership, but what we have found is a more effective tactic is to approach editors with different ideas around, this is something that we're doing. Maybe you'd be interested in op-ed about X, Y, and Z. This is a recent product launch that we've done. Would you be interested in talking to us about X, Y, and Z? I can shed some insights or whatever. We would have different pitch and op-ed ideas that we would send to editors on a regular basis, once every maybe 2 weeks. A lot of times journalists are busy. They don't write back. They might see the email, they'll take a mental note of it. But what we tend to find is that there's a long tail to this activity. And actually the most recent one, I actually got a phone call from an Irish journalist 2 days ago inquiring about a client we sent a pitch about 2 years ago. The only reason he found that pitch was he was going through his inbox looking for particular keywords, and our client came up as a company doing stuff in that space. All of a sudden, they found themselves in a relevant part of the news cycle, and journalists wanted to know if they were available for comment or to shed light on certain things. Being consistent, making sure that you are providing valuable insights to journalists to write stories and so on is a great use of resources. And then making sure that you are trying to offer value to editors and journalists by pitching them good ideas, good content that they can either come back to or respond immediately because it's quite topical and current at the moment. And that's where a lot of the top tier opportunities tend to come from.